Hello, my name is Charlene Stevens, and I am the director of ACRE Project Curatorial. Our current exhibition, Gay Guerrilla, includes an artist film library in which each artist will answer 3 questions to define the new genre of queer abstraction.
I'm Poppy DeltaDawn. This is my studio in Sunset Park. And I think a lot about my practice in terms of tradition and where what I make comes from. I'm really drawn to textiles and fiber traditions because of kind of like everybody's relatability to them. And I think a lot about like the global traditions of textiles. Everybody knows what a basket is. And I think that that's really fascinating. Like everybody knows what weaving is. Every continent has like kind of their own tradition of weaving. And I think that that's really bizarre, right? That we have this like interconnectedness. And we know about these objects just from being human. I think that that's really exciting. And to that end, I think a lot about queer abstraction in my work in the same way. Whereas like, we all have this understanding of being human, but like, I think that queerness goes a little further to disconnect that kind of like humanness. It's like, how can we think about queerness in terms of like being not just like a gender identity or a sexuality, but more of like, how do I exist in the world, and how do I move around, and how do I relate to others? And so in my work, queer abstraction kind of like emerges through objects. So this piece, Rope Study 1, is really exciting to me because first, it's a study, and I think a lot about studies and samples and fragments in my work as kind of like this experiment that I get to take really seriously. So with Rope Study 1, it's like a little under 2 feet of this non-useful rope. I cover the rope in wool and kind of like tuft it in the same way that you would make pom-poms. And I think a lot about like the utility of rope and what kind of like what rope says. Like what do you think when you see a coil of rope? I think a lot of it like talks back to utility, and taking away the utility of that object feels a little bit exciting. And not only that, but like removing the utility or uselessness from the object and quite literally like adding a layer onto the rope that is like touch me, feel me, hug me is kind of wild, I think. So I use wool a lot in my studio, in my work. I love wool. It feels like it is a piece of a body. Wool is like a remnant of a sheep's body, and that's really strange to think about to me. I think a lot about bodies. Who doesn't? But I think a lot about how I relate to sheep a little bit as a trans person. I think about the commodification of sheep's bodies and I think about the commodification of women's and trans bodies. And so when I manipulate and use wool as an object within my work, or a material, like I'm quite literally using like a body in my work. And I think a lot about how the wool or the sheep's body is transformed, or how it transitions to material. And so that's same goes in rope study 1. It's completely wool, and it's just kind of like this underlying thing throughout all of my work. There's a series of weavings that I have called A Lamb's Work Is Never Done. And I think about that a lot. It kind of relates back to the saying, like, a woman's work is never done. And like, when does the work stop, right? Like, the sheep grew this wool, had it shorn off, is probably like slaughtered by now, but like, the sheep is still working. I think there's something really powerful in that statement.
Thank you for joining us. If you would like to learn more about Arcade Project Curatorial's program, you can find us on arcadeprojectzine.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram and on Artsy.